Hello and welcome to this edition of The Verified with me, Mustafa Kedabo. So today I have Mr. Lamin Mani. I don't call him Dr. Lamin Mani now.
Don't.
Mr. Mani is an economist. Of course, he is with the United Democratic Party. He is the admin secretary, Foreign Affairs now.
Foreign Affairs and Diaspora.
Foreign Affairs and Diaspora. Yeah. There was an election at some point. I thought you had contested and there was a change of position.
No. I stayed where I am.
Oh, great. This also, it's my brother. Lamin is from Salikene, it's also an economist. He's an activist. He's it's worked before you started an organization. You were working with Gambia Participate. Gentlemen, welcome to this edition of The Verified.
Thank you.
Great. So I have two economists and to talk about the budget. And I think that it's this budget where the finance minister is requesting 59.4 billion. Let's just begin with the general basic question. I mean, which of course we will have to delve into more concrete detail. But the first assessment that I'm going to ask each of you to help us with is, if you look at the budget, because you almost have in your mind what you think the Gambian budget should be like, what kind of budget we should have. How far has this exceeded your expectations, or how less has it shortened from your expectations? Like, is this the budget you are expecting to see? Mr. Mani, we begin with you.
Certainly not what we expected to see. Because when you look at the allocation of the budget resources, at least the projected budget resources, it just shows an aggravation of what we were having in the past years. The budget goes essentially to administrative expenditure. The administrative budget is the bulk of what we have, particularly in the GLF. And the capital expenditure budget is about 1/5 of what the budget is supplying, is providing on the GLF. 39.8, I think, billion of the GLF is going to administrative expenditure. The capital expenditure is $9.8 billion projected. So that means it's about just less than 20% of the GLF is what is going into capital expenditure. Now, how do you run a country and hope to develop it if the bulk of the money is going into administrative expenditure, to start with? Two, you look at these budget entities, as they call them, which are the least productive, is where the most money is going into. Why do you give $1.17 billion to the president's office? To do what?
Of course, the claims have always been that there are a lot of institutions in the president's office.
Those institutions have their ministries of origin. The people who work there come from other institutions. And their budgets are with those institutions, not with the president's office. The president's office is an institution of its own. Now this year, to mask it, they broke it into president and vice president's office. Just to give us an idea, oh no, the president's budget is going down. It's not going down, it's going up. Okay? And that is before what they expect to get in loans and grants. Those go up to top it up. So when you look at the whole thing, they will tell you, oh, there are state guards that they come under the Ministry of Defense.
State guards, and also there is NIA, National Intelligence Agency.
National Intelligence Agency is the one that should be scrapped.
Which is not accountable.
Because that one
they are
is
not audited.
Exactly. We don't even know how much they get.
But that's a potential money laundering scheme. I have always talked about the National Audit Office in the light of, if you are president and you want to illegally finance your campaign, that's national. It's
not only your campaign, but your riches. You can do it through that.
Because they don't get audited. Nobody gets to hold to account how much. We don't even know how much money, how their budget is, because they operate essentially a black budget, as they call it in the US.
Yeah. You see, you do understand that there are sensitive operations of the state which cannot be financed in the open. Not everybody understands that.
Yeah.
But you should have a section of the community. It might be parliament, it might be civil society organizations. And I think whatever happens in civil society...
Even the Auditor General should have the clearance.
I'm coming there. The civil society organizations should be part of that auditing. The Auditor General's office should be there. Opposition parties should have representatives on that. They will be sworn to secrecy, but they should need to see how much is going there, how it is used. You cannot just give money to anybody from our resources and tell them you spend it any way you like.
The
and not
last time
accountable.
Karamba tried to audit the NIA, they were, including my party, came out to say that NIA should not be audited because CIA is not, he sort of made an analogy between them and CIA. But in the US, even the black budget is known to set a selected number of people.
Yeah.
You just have to have a certain level of pay grade. The Senate Intelligence Committee and others.
Level, yeah.
Certain people in
Not
Congress.
just, not just the president.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there are a
Certain
lot
people
of
in Congress and in the intelligence community with the proper levels of clearance do get access to this. They control it. They vet it.
They control
You
it.
cannot just give money to anybody and say spend it the way you like. Especially not even how much you're getting.
So essentially, because this is not the time when we get into the specifics, will we get better off or worse off after the implementation of this budget?
Of course, we'll get,
so by the end of
we'll get worse off. We'll get worse off. Why? Our borrowing is shooting through the roof. You see the exponential rise in debt payment from 7 billion in 2023 to 11 billion in 2025. Next year is going to be 13 billion. And it's just going to keep rising. You know why? Because a number of our loans have been frozen. The payments, have been frozen because of COVID. There was a moratorium. That moratorium ends for most of them starting next year. So the debt payments are going to go up crescendo. So in the next 3 to 4 years, our debt payments are going to rise exponentially.
Let's suppose there's no renegotiation, there is no...
Well, when this government goes in at the end of 26, we will have to renegotiate.
That's when oppositions are able to rustle them out.
We will rustle them out. But that's a debate for another day. But whatever happens, even if this government, God forbid, were to stay, they would have had no choice but to renegotiate. Or they will slap a structural adjustment program on them because they cannot continue paying this. The debt is
we're sort of already on the
structural adjustment program.
Sort of staff monitoring
because
program.
That is the ECL, the extended credit facility, and the resilient sustainability facility. These are all, to all intents and purposes, they are structural adjustment programs. Now, in addition to that, the Dalasi is just falling every day. The depreciation is unending. So, the more the Dalasi depreciates, even if you do not borrow anything more, our debt is going to rise in Dalasi terms because we will spend more Dalasis to buy foreign exchange to service that debt. And we do not have foreign exchange in this country, just coming through garment sales and tourism essentially. We don't have any more industries in this country to export. The garment industry is in the doldrums. The tourism sector is dead. Go to Senegambia these days and see. This should be the height of the tourist season. We are in November. It has been booming. Very few people in Senegambia. So the tourism sector is dead. It started dying with Ahmad Bar. And now it's just getting worse and worse every year. So we do not get foreign exchange coming to this country. So all the debt payments are in foreign exchange. Just small amount, local domestic debt, that's just over 40 billion. And our total debt, they tell you it's about 110. It's not true. It's all over 140 billion dollars.
Yeah, I think the last...
And in fact, I saw something done by Noah Cisse and Lamin Konate. They put it 150. But I got us about 142, 143 billion. But there are so much that we don't know about. They probably found more. And the hidden debt was not involved in that.
Yeah.
So just with that, we are going to have to pay more. So this budget should have been cutting down on expenditure and cutting down especially on administrative expenditure and putting more into capital investment.
So, okay. So, Lamin, we come to you. Like, because we already have, budget is sort of a peek into the future. Because this is how much the government says, okay, this is the money we have to spend. And so by the end of the year 2026, they haven't told us what we're going to look like. But in your view, based on this budget and based on the priorities set out in this budget, what we would look like by the end of 2026?
I think a lot can change if proper oversight
Is done at the level of the parliament.
Yes, at the level of the parliament, and even at the level of the executive. You know, I mean, oversight cuts across. The executive has a responsibility to play their oversight role, especially the Ministry of Finance, and also Parliament. Most especially, it falls on Parliament, especially during budget execution, and also on the National Audit Office after budget execution. But what I would say is that by the end of 2026, I think nothing much is going to change, because the oversight is not going to be strengthened the way we expect it to be, and because of that, there will
what's the rationale for that? What do you think? Why do you think the oversight is less likely to change?
This has historical context, because over the years it's been the same. I mean, I could say since 2020 or even way back, it's been the same. The oversight function of the National Assembly has been weak. The oversight function of the National Audit Office has been constrained. And because of that, it's also weak to an extent. What we need to see is development in the country, right? That is what citizens need to see, to assess, to determine, and say, of course, okay, we've seen something. There is economic development in the country, there is movement, progress in the country. But that development is expected to emanate from the development budget of the government. The development budget of the government has the least scrutiny.
So the development budget essentially is the money set aside to invest.
Yeah, to invest, exactly, into our infrastructure.
Productive sectors.
Yes, into our infrastructure, like health sector, road infrastructure, education infrastructure. But that has the least amount of oversight. If we put in place proper scrutiny, proper examination, proper oversight over all the spending that is done on our development initiatives, I think we can move forward substantially. But the problem is, right now the development budget is at 20 billion, right? That's a good amount of money. And within that development budget, we have about 15 development projects that are worth at least $500 million, at least. From $500 million is upward. This ranges from agriculture, health, higher education, petroleum and energy, lands, tourism sector. We have massive projects in each of these sectors. And if those projects are implemented properly, with the funds directed towards development and nothing else but development, with the funds not diverted into private pockets, and with proper implementation of those projects, I think we can see macroeconomic improvement to a significant degree. But the fear I have with respect to the development budget is that there is no proper oversight over it. That is the problem.
Isn't there also a fundamental problem in the sense that, since the colonialists, this is the kind of budgeting system they've left with. So we have institutions, and these institutions every year they go and sort of allocate salaries to them, allowances and all that, and they said this is what we are going to do. And traditionally that's how the budget has always been. So couldn't we have a system where, for example, we look at the budget, rationalize our issues in order of priority, and sort of say, instead of just the usual template, we are going to now put much of our resources towards this direction, and then later maybe we can, you know what I mean? Like, say for example, okay, this is going to be a year where we have to cut on food importation. Okay? Go ahead.
Along those lines,
yeah.
If you look at the 20 billion that Lavin is talking about, that is factoring in the loans and grants that they're expecting.
Yeah.
The GLF, which is the shortest budget we have, which is at 9.8 billion.
That's the local funds.
Local
The
government
government, the money government
generated from
locally.
tax and non-tax revenue, etc.
Yeah.
That puts it at 9.8 billion.
Yeah.
They are expecting 14.4 billion from grants.
Yeah.
And 1.4 billion from loans. That is what they're going to plow into the development budget, according to them, to take it to 20 point whatever billion. that is a hypothetical source of income.
Yeah.
We are not going to get anywhere near that. If you look at this 2024 that just ended last year, the budget support came virtually on the last day of the year. And within 1 week, it was all gone. And for this year, there'll be even less budget support because what happened at the audit office was seen all over the world. The budget support depends on the perception of proper governance in a country. That determines a lot of what comes in budget support. And that debacle at the National Audit Office is going to send the wrong signals to most of our supporters in terms of budgetary allocation, budget support. So that's going to be very bad for the country. One. Two, the loans and grants depend on the country's performance. If you perform, and if people see that you're on the right trajectory, they are much more inclined to giving you money. If you don't, the money you're getting is much less. And the corruption perception in this country is such that, not only the perception, the reality is such that countries are not keen on giving money to the Gambia. Two, if your budget puts enough emphasis on investment, the donor community sees that this country is really serious about investment and developing the country. That attracts money. If you put your money where your mouth is, you get more money. You move your projects from what you call in development community greenfield projects to where you put money in there. They see you want to develop agricultural sector, you put money in agriculture. They say, okay, these guys are serious about developing agriculture, more money will come. You want to develop energy, and you put more money into energy sector, particularly in the green sector, money will come in to support that.
But there's a fundamental problem here, Lamin. I mean, if you look at, for example, okay, we're talking about the high amount of money that's going to debt service.
Yes.
Okay. Now, so why are we not able to make more money? Because we're taking loan, okay? And if we are taking loan, let's say, for example, we look at it from a personal point of view. If I'm taking loan, I'm going to make sure that I invest that money in such a way that it's going to generate a return on investment to be able to pay. So if you are not able to pay back your loan, doesn't it mean that you're also not properly investing it?
That's it. Or you're not investing it at all.
Or you're not investing it at all.
Yeah.
If you take, I keep coming to this Battle Harding Highway.
Yeah.
Ibrahim Silla stood there and told us that he put $150 million in a 22-kilometer stretch of road. That is 6.28 billion per kilometer. Or thereabout. And he said that's not enough. They borrowed another $54 million to add on to that to continue the development. That takes it $204 million. And in this year's budget, they have about $580 million for phase 3 of the same Battle Harding Highway. So $580 million is. That's close to $9 million additional into the same Battle Harding Highway. That takes Battle Harding Highway to construction to over $10 million per kilometer. How do you justify that anywhere? How is that a productive investment? That's a white elephant. So you're taking loans to sink us further. That amount of money should have been able to build us a dual carriageway of 4 lanes, 2 on either side, from Sink Corner to Bansango at least, or Basse probably. Because you're not going to destroy a good road that's already there. You're going to create 2 other lanes and take it all the way to Bansango.
You think that's it's also okay. We'll come to waste and corruption.
Yeah, just to conclude on that, we have seen over $440 million go into the energy sector, and we're still buying energy from abroad, or until recently buying from Car Power and the rest. How is that going to improve our situation? Not at all. Just gets our debt situation and debt overhang worse.
Yeah,
and that's what's killing this country.
All right. So okay, I come to you, Lamin. You guys have the civil society organizations have you have taken to the parliament the advocacy for a better budget, and in the line of that, your organization, I find it difficult to pronounce all of it. The Center for Budget and Macroeconomic Transparency was part of this group of
Consortium.
this group of civil society organizations. They did over 15, I think, and on the list of the things you've talked about were a proper management of the country's debt structure. At this point already, we already owed a lot, and what you owe, you have to pay. So what are you guys proposing? I mean, how do they go about it? Are you saying let's be very careful of how much debt we are going to take now, anytime from now, or let's try and what's the point? Like, what are you people trying to suggest?
Dr. Mani has already mentioned we have around 140 to going to maybe 50 billion in public debt, and of course, it has to be paid. There is a strategy around it, and the government's strategy, current strategy as to how it pays or repays the debt is sustainable.
And what's the strategy? Let's go to the concrete details.
The strategy is to borrow, take new loans to repay past debt principles.
So rob Peter to pay John. Sort of.
Exactly. This is the strategy. But the price you pay for that is that your interest rate or interest payments will increase. We've seen that in this current draft budget, we have about 9 billion that is going to go into debt repayment. Of course, it's going to settle the deficit of 2 billion. And the remaining 7 billion will go into repayment of debt principal. But the government is doing that by borrowing internally, not from outside. All the money that's supposed to come from outside countries will go into our development projects.
Yeah.
The money that will be borrowed within the country will be used to repay debt principal. That's going to lead to interest payments of unimaginable amount. You can see it in the budget. Our interest payment for next year is around $6.9 billion, which is even more than the principal payment for next year. This tells you that if you continue borrowing or continue taking on new loans to repay past debts, your interest payment will increase to a substantial amount.
But there's also a risk to borrowing from within.
Yes,
if it is very substantial.
I'll come to that. If it is very substantial, there is this issue of crowding out. It's not going to be the government that only needs the money, credit. It's also private businesses, importers, producers, domestic producers that are going to need money from banks, from other private businesses that have savings. They're going to need that money to either import or produce domestically. And if they do not have funding, they will be constrained. And that will lead to either reduced production, reduced importation, or no production, no importation at all.
Which will also lead to reduced production and lesser taxes.
Supply, yes. And lesser taxes, less money for the government, but also less amount of goods and services in the market. You have money. What you're going to have at the end of the day probably will be demand pool inflation, where the aggregate demand or demand becomes more than supply. And that can lead to high costs and high prices. It has repercussions. I mean, single thing is interconnected when it comes to debt, production, and also interest and everything. But to come back to this, the government's method of repaying debt is unsustainable. The government needs to figure out a means to generate revenue to repay debt. You've mentioned this earlier on. There used to be a third component that government uses to repay debt, that is capital revenue, that is leasing or selling government assets to repay debt. That has now gone silent. It's only borrowing that they repay debt. But what if there were another way where you take the loan you take is there has to be a condition whereby the loan you take is invested into something that will generate more revenue for you, so that it will be easier in the future for you to pay back your debt, because it's something that you must repay. If you just take the debt and then put it into probably social investment only, that will not generate any dime for you. How are you going to repay the debt then?
But you know also that's politically very lucrative. Social investments in a time of election, it's very lucrative. It may not be good for the economy, but it's good for the president.
There you go. So that tells you the motive. That tells you the motive of the
It's a
government.
political budget.
It's a-
It's 2026.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is horrible for the country. Look at the secondary banks in this country.
Yeah.
Most of them banking with the private sector and physical persons in the country is not their key concern. Their key concern is investing in government bills, central bank bills, and government bonds, and the sukuk. That's where they make money from. It's virtually no risk, high returns. You just put all your money in that. What's left?
It makes banks also lazy.
Of course it does.
It also makes banking very risk-free, very efficient.
Yeah. No, it's
Efficient, I don't know, but risk-free certainly.
Risk-free, yes.
Risk-free certainly.
Risk-free, yeah.
But for the government, as he said, it crowds out the private sector
Yeah.
and the other investors or importers, etc. in the country. It crowds them out. Okay?
But this also, Dr. Mane, this also sort of in the long run, it sort of it kills the very government that benefits from it. Because in the long run, if for example you crowd out the private sector, and the private sector doesn't have enough resources to reinvest, okay, and so therefore they don't increase productivity or they go into decline. So you're struggling. You're going to create a difficult environment for yourself in the future because they are the ones who are supposed to be paying tax. They are the ones who are supposed to be producing for the citizens.
But not just that. That difficulty is real and is there. But in addition to that, your debt payments abroad are going to be very constrained and very difficult. And because of that, your credit rating internationally is going to go down. And the lower your credit rating goes, the more expensive the loans you take. So whichever way you look at it, from the international point of view, you're going to borrow at a much higher cost, which is going to worsen your debt situation. Domestically, you're borrowing more money because basically, it's as you say, robbing Paul, Peter to pay Paul. So they roll over the treasury bills and government bonds. When they come in, they just roll it over. Whatever they get from that, they pay what is due, and then they continue. So the debt just keeps ballooning. And that gives the commercial banks leverage to be able to increase interest rates. What they're asking is going to be higher because the demand is there and the supply is less.
And they know, and they don't want to struggle with the guy on the street because the private person risks failing to
I'm
pay.
going to sign a
The
broad
government
down.
never fails to pay.
I'm going to sign a broad down the treasury bill interest to under 10%. It's heading to 20 again. And what we're going to have is, as we go along, the private sector is going to have less and less money. And what do we get? They go to the central bank, as we saw recently. They said they get some private enterprises, they get $100 million for importation of food stuff, etc. to make. It's actually about $200 million, not $100 million. So that in itself is contingent liability for us as well. So because those are guaranteed by government, by the central bank. So they are contingent liability. If those companies fail, we pay. So that gets our debt situation even worse. So whichever way you look at it, our debt stock is going to get higher and higher, and this government doesn't seem to be worried about that.
Now, of course, there is a claim when people talk about debt all the time. I mean, one of the arguments, and this I would think I'll put it to both of you. One of the arguments that would come essentially, just recently, it came from Dr. Ismail Sise, is that, of course, all countries borrow. And so, for example, US borrows, and US is outrageously high debt. Japan, all the developing countries, all these big countries, they borrow. I mean, we have to borrow to invest. Like, what's the difference? Like, why are we talking about debt at this point? Like, what's the point? What's the difference? Maybe I start with
the question is, you have to borrow. That's the statement. You have to borrow. But why do you have to borrow? Borrowing is only necessary when the money that you have is not enough for your spending.
Yeah.
That's when you borrow. But what if you could generate enough revenue for yourself to the extent that you do not need borrowing? I think that is possible for our country. I mean, countries are different in terms of economic structure in terms of, in fact, the endowments within the economy. If you look at the Gambia, sometimes that's why sometimes it can be very dangerous to compare your economy to economies that are not alike. For example, the Gambia's economy is nothing compared to probably America's economy. You could
or
compare it,
Japan's.
yes. The structures are different and so many components are different. But
And
coming
they're
back to
highly
the Gambia,
productive environments
exactly.
also.
Coming back to the Gambia, if you can avoid borrowing, you try as much as possible to do so. But if you cannot avoid borrowing, whatever you borrow has to generate something that will make it easier for you to repay your debt in the future. I'm not saying whatever you borrow has to generate revenue for you. No, it has to create something for you that will make repaying your debt easier. That's why the government needs to be strategic in its borrowing and in its usage of the money borrowed. Is it going to go into agriculture? And how is it going to bolster, improve our agricultural sector to the extent that revenue generation will be easier for the citizens and the government, and the payment of or repayment of the loan will be then easier? This is the thinking behind borrowing.
Okay.
You have to be strategic.
So
Simple
nobody's
as
saying
that.
don't borrow.
Don't borrow.
People are just saying
Yes.
borrow, but borrow responsibly.
Yes,
Reasonably.
responsibly,
Yeah.
and spend it on something that will make repayment easier. If you borrow and spend it on something that will make repayment much difficult or indifferent, or that will make your payment, either difficult or it will not help it at all, then you are borrowing for the wrong reasons, or you are borrowing unstrategically. You have to be strategic.
Okay.
Basically,
So,
that's it.
I mean, of course, I would say that, probably whether you are here in 2017 or not, but you probably most have been following Gambian issues. And when Barrow came into power, one of the major issues that was in the media was that, so he has found that Jammeh had borrowed, debt to GDP was 100%, 58 billion GDP, $58 billion debt. Okay. And so they said, well, this is difficult situation, and they had to rebase the economy and sort of recalculate it. And they said, well, the debt to GDP ratio, the GDP is now $2 billion and no longer $1 billion. Okay, we have recalculated it, and this is the standing figure. So the debt to GDP ratio had to fall down to 50%. And so now, so I would say, Barrow knows the consequences of a higher debt. I mean, the favorite expression back in the time was there is no money, but there is an expression they use. I don't know. The coffers are empty. So I mean, we are heading back to that sort of a situation where the debt to GDP ratio is going to be outrageous, whether 100% or very close by. So what do you think? Like Lamin answered, what do you think is the fundamental problem? Because I suppose no reasonable person is saying don't borrow.
Yeah.
But what are we saying? Like what's the point? Like,
Just to come back quickly to what you said, the minister said.
yeah.
Japan's debt, about 240% of GDP.
Yeah.
But Japan's loan is entirely local. It is borrowed locally. And they have a productive base which generates enough income for them to pay without any hassle.
Yeah.
So they are very liquid. So it's okay for them to borrow that much money. America, they can finance their deficit through deficit financing, through the dollar, etc. They have all sorts of ways to do this.
And they also do what they call quantitative easing. So they print a lot of dollars.
Yes, exactly.
And also there's a market for dollars.
Yes.
The debt is in fact in dollars, some would even say.
The debt is in dollars. But also, no matter how much dollar they print,
They can print and
dollar is a global market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they have all of those leverages and facilities. We don't. Okay? What we have in the country here is an economy that is totally unproductive, which is borrowing so much money. It's just like, Mustafa, you borrow $10,000 and you go on leave.
Yeah.
You go spend it on leave and you have a great time.
Yeah.
When you come back and it's time to pay,
Yeah.
and you don't have another source of income,
Yeah.
you are in trouble.
Yeah, I'll be in trouble.
The bank might end up impounding. You will have a great time, yeah. But when you come back,
Yes.
The collateral you give to the bank might get lost in the end.
Yes.
The bank might have to
I'll
repossess
be
them and
broke
sell.
and,
Okay?
Yes.
But if you take that $10,000 loan and invest it in a shop, in a farm, in whatever, you will be generating income.
Yeah.
The income from that can pay back your loan and allow you to build a base and increase your capital and your net worth. So when the next time you go to the bank, you're probably borrowing $30,000, $40,000. Dollars is not 10. Because the bank will see that you have invested the money properly, you've used it properly, you're generating income, and you are solvent. They will give you more money. If you don't, next time you go there, either they won't give you any money, or the interest they're going to charge you and the collateral they're going to demand is going to be so much higher, you won't get anything. That's what I'm talking about, the credit rating of the country. The credit rating is going to get worse, and we're going to borrow at much higher rates, or we're not even able to borrow at all. So now, in the case of the Gambia, if you're going to be a smart investor, you would put money, one, in agricultural sector, and you increase our production. It could be rice, it could be millet, it could be sorghum, it could be cotton, it could be sesame, and fruits and vegetables, just name it. Poultry, ruminants, cattle. You can just invest in any of those sectors, and you will generate income locally. You can process the produce and the products from those sectors, and you market them abroad. You get more money. You will invest in energy. The $440 million will produce more solar and wind power in the country, and maybe even hydro. And you create more resources for the country, because if you were to invest the $400 million into solar generation, you would produce at least 400 megawatts of power. We need 150. That's 250 megawatts for you to sell abroad. We have the West Africa power pool. You can just dump it all there. They will buy it. They need it. You can sell to the neighboring countries. Guinea-Bissau needs so much power. Senegal is still needing more power. They won't need it in a short time, because they are developing that sector is very well under the Jomai Sonko government. But you have the West Africa power pool, which will buy it from you. You can sell it there, and you can generate a lot of income from that. You can do the same thing for the tourism sector. Build more tourism products. We don't have any tourism product in the Gambia. It's only the sea and the sun. Build more tourism
But
products.
there are potentials. So, for example, I don't want it to look like a tourism conversation, but the potentials are there, because they started. I mean, there are even the parks and the wildlife facilities we're having here. They are dying.
They are dying. They are dead. So most of them.
Kanilai was left unattended and uninvested.
Abuka Nature Reserve. Nothing there.
Nature Reserve.
The other
They
parks
are
they're all
thinking
dying.
of building one in Kiang, I think.
Yeah, but nothing has started. The ecologists they were supposed to build. What happened?
And now people are going to Fatala
in Senegal. And we're going to have another Fatala here. But we're not having any of those things. We're not developing the tourism sector. You have to get the products. Tourism products is what attracts people. What do you get?
So what do you think should have been the approach? So for example, like I said, like if we are going to have a budget, because now we are talking about debt is high, debt servicing is taking a lot from the development of the development budget. Of course, we will come to also maintenance of the status quo, because a lot of the money is going to payment of salaries and things like that. So it's going to maintaining the infrastructure of the government itself. But
talking of payment of salaries, I went into the budget. This document should be given to the government, to the parliament, at least 3 months in advance. This is a 500-page document.
Yeah.
I went inside, I was looking there. Some of the ministries, I went for the high-spending ministries. Interior, defense, infrastructure development, finance, etc. I was looking at the salary structures. For some of them, the salaries, and I believe these are for the top-level officials, have virtually doubled and unexplained. And there's no salary increase program for next year.
Yeah, but they are proposing increase in salaries for next year.
Yeah, but we don't see it anywhere.
Including for parliament.
These are, essentially for parliament.
Parliament is how much?
About 50%. About 50%.
Yeah.
That is a sweetener.
So
That's a
parliament
sweetener.
for 50%, that would have been for, let's say, parliament.
For a
I think
single-
the basic salary for a parliamentarian is 100,000.
52,000 per month.
It's 52,000.
That is excluding allowances.
Standard now.
That's excluding salaries.
Yes, basic salary.
If you look at the ministers, it's under
52,000, but now it's
100,000.
increasing to 78,000.
78,000.
That's
per month.
26,000 increment right there.
The major salary for a National Assembly member, I think, is little over 100,000 now.
Well over that.
The salary.
Major salary is around speaker is 150,000 per month, and
Yeah.
it is equal to the vice president's proposed basic salary. So basically,
And
the
that's-
speaker's annual salary and the vice president's annual salary are equal.
Equal.
Yes.
And that is
So
what that is
so
that is operative word, basic. That's the
Okay,
basic
so
salary.
that's the basic salary.
When you have the allowances, the president's salary was 255,000,
Yes.
and now it's got 308, I think, or 306.
Now it's
It's-
500.
it's
No,
still-
but that's the
but
basic.
it's
I'm talking
same
about the
in
basic.
budget.
That's the
I
basic.
think there is probably some problem here. It's the same in the budget. It's not
Yes.
increasing. 200. It's 255,000 still.
But I
No,
think
but
when
it's
we
got to
pay
306. That's
500
basic. But when you add the allowances, the president's salary is 500,000.
now.
For the ministers, when you add the allowances, it's about $200,000 a month.
Yeah.
That's what the reality is. But that doesn't show. They
Also,
give,
the
they
National
give the
Assembly
basic,
members
and
is
those
now
allowances,
over 100,000.
yes, and those allowances are not
So
taxed.
it will still be way more over 100,000.
So what
Yeah,
we
but
do
these-
is they pay basic salaries low amounts and high amounts in allowances because those are not taxed.
Because allowances are not
Are not
taxed.
taxed. So the bulk of their salary is not taxed.
So the economy is, so the people who are paying sort of, I mean, if the figures.
It's the
is
poor
that-
person that pays.
It is the poor person that pays.
Yeah.
But the person who is getting paid is, if the economics, if the figures are anything to go by, is doing a very bad job because the country is not getting richer.
Yes.
But yet, so that means the payee, the employer is getting poorer, but the employee is getting richer.
Yes.
Yeah.
You see?
It's
Yeah,
serious.
employee in the sense of the people and the servants of the people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the servants of the people are getting richer,
Richer
because
and
they're
the people are
paid
getting
higher.
poorer. Yeah.
Do you think the parliament, I mean, if the parliament were to be the advocacy institution here, do you think that the parliament would have the moral footing to be the advocacy institution?
They could, because this is a proposal. You know, parliamentarians do not prepare the budget
But
themselves.
the parliament must have been in the know themselves for this increase.
But now is the time for them to actually do better by rejecting this proposal.
No. But the
They-
parliament, the proposal, I can assure you, the proposal for this increase would have come from the parliament.
Then the citizens, it's in the hands of the citizens now to talk with their parliamentarians not to go ahead with this, because if they do, it's going to create a lot of problem even within the
But
government.
there are people in the
inequality.
parliament who think that they are paid far less. They should have been paid probably equal to our ministers.
This comparison, I say again, parliamentarians, they travel a lot, and I'm sure that when they go to other countries, they see the salary structures of other parliamentarians. They
Yeah.
will want the same to be applied to them. But
Yeah.
again,
Kenya is outrageous.
Yeah.
But
Kenya's
it cannot-
economy is nowhere comparable to that of the Gambia.
yeah,
You cannot. You cannot compare, oranges and apples. Senegal next door, the minister gets about 2.5, 3 million CFA. But they can afford it compared to us. A member of parliament gets about 3 million CFA a month.
That's how much in the Gambian dollars?
Currently, I think
3 million. That would be a lot of money, though.
that would be in the region of $6,000-7,000. You know,
That's still a lot of money.
that's a lot
yeah,
of
that's
money.
over $400,000.
No, that's more than the salary of the president.
Yeah,
Less than that
imagine-
of the president slightly, but much more than that of the ministers and the rest.
Yeah, less than
Double,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
less than, yeah.
But-
Because it's still, president 500,000 still.
Yes, but look at the GDP of Senegal. Look at the industries in Senegal. The tax revenue in
Well,
Senegal.
what should have even been I mean, of course, we know salaries are going to be increased. But also the amount of money that's going to be spent on fuel and vehicles. Now, this year in the budget, I think it's somewhere around 800,000 plus. It's
Yeah.
800 million, sorry.
Probably. At least 400 million last time
Yeah.
I checked. It's a lot of money.
It's more than that.
No, it's more than
It's
that
in the-
because
it's in the
according
Purchase of fuel and lubricants
Yeah.
alone, but then it's not alone. It's
If
purchase
you
of
want to
vehicle,
see,
purchase of fuel and lubricants, and maintenance of vehicle. So
yeah,
if you add,
so for vehicles, the money is 334 million. for maintenance of vehicles is 114 million, and for fuel and lubricants is 428 million. So in total, it's 876 million. According to the
When
figures.
what is not said is that every single year, the actuals of those budgets are at least 50% higher than what they tell us.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. They never produce the actuals.
The actual.
They don't publish the actuals. But go look at the actuals. They are much
We
higher.
will come to the issue of integrity of the budget later.
Yeah.
But so right now, we are into, so we've talked about the issue of the debt. I've talked about, I mean, how can we move away from this? Now, you've talked about agriculture, you've talked about investing in the tourism, you've talked about investing in agriculture and tourism and another issue. But what else can we do? How else can we move away from it?
Move away from it.
Yeah,
You know,
making the country a little more productive and more buoyant financially.
it's possible. It's
I
very much
just want to give you
possible
that one. That is energy sector. Okay?
Energy
so,
sector, yes.
So let Lavin go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to talk about how we can move away from borrowing. You know, we are
Or at least excessive unproductive borrowing.
we're a tax-dependent economy.
Yeah.
We are that for a reason. I mean, it's by choice.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's not by condition.
Yeah.
Apart from DRA, we have other ministries, other government entities that are generating revenue,
Yes.
and they are
And even
they're
parastatals that are supposed to be generating
they're way
revenue.
more than DRA.
Yeah.
They are about at least
Supposed to,
minimum at least 13 of them
Yeah.
that are generating revenue.
Yeah.
But can you imagine what DRA alone collects in terms of tax revenue is way probably 3 times more than what they collect altogether.
Yes.
Now
all together, all of them
the
together.
excuse of that could be that okay, DRA has the base. We are it's tax we are talking about. That's understandable.
Yeah.
Now, DRA joins them to collect the non-tax revenue. They collect primarily the non-tax revenue. DRA joins them. Aside from DRA collecting tax revenue alone primarily, DRA also joins them to collect non-tax revenue. But what DRA collects alone, in terms of non-tax revenue alone, is even more than what they collect altogether. The 13 of them.
Yes.
2024 has reflected that, and Mr. Mani, Dr. Mani rather has explained that
Mani.
there is.
Yes, Mr. Mani.
No, I will go, Doctor. I please.
I can't get away from that. But
Doctor has said
Yeah,
that.
you've tried to get away from it, and people wouldn't. Maybe you should start doing your
It's well
research now.
deserved, I think.
Actually, I'm doing one. I'm doing a doctorate program just because.
Good. So it could, the accolade could come later after the. Okay.
So imagine, these 13 of them, it was 13 of them that were approved to collect money, around $5.5 billion is for 2024. But the budget reports that they collected 2.4 billion. And out of that, DRA collected more than half.
This 13 would include GMPC, NAVEC, and others. But NAVEC, of course, NAVEC is in
No, those are
NAVEC, Gamcel, those ones are dead.
those are state-owned
By design.
enterprises.
Yeah, those ones.
Those are
dead.
state-owned
Those-
enterprises.
yes.
What they give to the government.
This ones is Minister of Petroleum and others.
Yes, Minister of
Ministry
Petroleum, Minister of
Department
Finance,
of
Minister of
Forestry,
Interior, passport fees,
yes,
things of that sort.
immigration and all that.
Immigration and all that, yeah.
Yeah.
And
State
Ministry
courts and
of
police.
Health.
Yeah,
Ministry of Health.
yeah.
So these, all of them, 13 of them together, they collected, based on what the budget is reporting, 2026 budget, they collected 794 million.
Yeah.
As opposed to what DRA collected, over $1 billion is what DRA collected. I'm talking about only non-tax revenue
Yeah.
here. So even DRA is better at collecting non-tax revenue.
Well,
than
Lamin,
13 of them.
you see, one fundamental problem, Lamin, this is still going to be connected to the non-tax revenue you're talking about. Now, come to think of it, we have the sea, okay? We have a lot of fish in that
Fisheries,
water.
yeah.
Okay, we have EU coming to take tuna, hake, and all these things, okay? Now, we have, during the Jawara days, we used to have investment in the wharves, in the how do they call it, landing sites. Even in Salikene, for example, we had a cold
We
storage.
did.
Salikene, the facility was probably like Tanye, like that's how good the facility, cold storage, seasoning, everything was there.
Yes.
I mean, why can't we invest in those things and boost the revenue capacity of those institutions? And
the community.
We claim to be.
huh?
We claim to be. Whatever.
We're trying to be investing.
Yes. Whatever we talk about here, most of the things we're going to talk about here, most of the proposals we're going to give here, in fact, are already captured in the budget.
Yeah.
But in a very devious way.
Yeah.
The government's development budget is across the board. It captures all the sectors, and huge amounts of money are going to go into those sectors. But Dr. Mani has already said this. These are, correct me if I'm wrong, these are like, proposals that are expected to come in. They may not come in. Like in terms of project grants, because the budget is, development budget rather, is predominantly project grant. Over 71%, over 70% of the development budget is project grant based. But now, this disaggregation of the projects within the projects, I mean, in terms of their budget line expenditures, if you look at them, the amount of money that are going into, like, equipment, things of that sort that will enhance our infrastructure in terms of fisheries infrastructure, in terms of health infrastructure, in terms of education infrastructure, the amount of money, the disaggregation done is where the problem lies. You can see, for example, for a particular project that is for water infrastructure building.
Yeah.
That particular project will have an amount of 300 million allocated to operating costs.
Yeah, so you have, and in fact, one of the things that's happening in the Gambia is that folks are hired paid salary.
Yes.
But then when they are also
Implementing projects, they are paid
they
money.
get paid
Yes. It's like double,
separate salary.
yes, double
So for
payment.
example, somebody was telling me, even GRA, all these roads they are building, they get allowance as part of the road building as well, aside from the
NRA.
salary that they get paid.
NRA.
So this is a Ministry of Agriculture, this is the same thing. And sometimes, in fact, I heard the project salary is even more than your salary. So
Yeah.
you get paid your salary,
In
you
the
get
Gambia,
paid.
it always is.
But the recurrent budget has already covered that. I mean, you are a public servant. You are a civil servant.
Yeah.
You are already on a pay scale. Why is it that the project that you implement is also having a pay of its own for you? Why? I mean,
Yeah, that's
why that double payment? And now, even if it is to, like, let's say, a reasonable amount, understandable, to compensate you, to motivate you to implement the project properly. But first, it is a huge amount of money. Dr. Mani has mentioned the OIC, the widening of the Batil Harding phase 3, the over $500 million Dalasi project. 69.77 million of that is going into operational cost. And I think 100 million or so is going into consultancy. This is a project that you have implemented for years, and then you could not have developed technicians, to avoid paying for consultancy.
Yeah. But all that is for kickbacks underneath. I mean, they have to have-
No, there you go.
Yeah.
Kickbacks,
Yeah.
Improper planning, devious budgeting.
But
This is what
you've seen how after the OIC road started, they started editing after construction. So for example, there were places that were not supposed to be a turnaround, and they started changing. So after
Again,
I said that to Ibrahim Silla in our debate. I said, your road is poorly designed. Before you finish, start breaking. He said, no, it happened. All over is continuing. Now Sukuta, they're building a flyover. Tell him, it doesn't make sense to build this road and flyover there.
And one of the things also that people started complaining even before it started was the subs that were by the road.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
They have
supposed
been
to
cordoned
empower
off.
the,
They are cordoned off.
yeah,
People can get up the road to go to those shops.
yeah.
But, just around Sting Corner, in this rainy season, about 50-meter stretch, they had to break it all up again and redo it. So the breaking up has started even just over a year when the project was, it went live. But you see, just wanted to say something quickly about the staff who get paid a bit more for implementing those projects. I was in the development finance community. We do that because when you bring in staff from elsewhere as consultants, implementing those routes, and the bulk of the work is done by the local staff. And they are paid peanuts by the government. When these people are getting thousands of dollars, it's unfair on them. So we say just to motivate them a bit more, we top up, we call it topping up. Top up their salaries to motivate them a bit more to be able to produce, the level of expertise and work that we expect of them. But ideally, you take the Rwanda situation, where the consultants they bring in are Rwandans in the country or living in the diaspora, and pay them those salaries of consultants. to do the work. So we have enough expertise in this country not to go get consultants from abroad to come and do those things. Because as you said, we will be building capacity at the same time. So in the end, NRA, if you build the capacity of NRA and their staff to do this kind of work, some of those people will be consultants. Some will branch off out of NRA and start their own firms. CSE in Senegal, etc. It is government. So they start their own work. They start their own work and then get things done. So we should be doing that sort of thing, but we are not doing it in this country. And unfortunately, in addition to that, the bulk of the money goes into buying vehicles and traveling instead of implementing projects. That's why they fail. So when the projects end, there is nothing happening, and there is no buy-in by the local population. So there is no continuity or sustainability. These projects are supposed to be sustainable once the donors pull out. At the end of the project, they should be strong enough. Go to North Africa. That's the difference with them. Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Egypt. When we pull out, the projects are already up and running. So they move forward. And that's what you don't have in sub-Saharan Africa in most of the countries. They just depend on the donors to finance everything when they wait for the next donors coming in.
So what can we do? I mean, already we have a very high debt situation, okay? And we know we are already also taking more, which means the debt for sure is only going to increase. And so, which therefore also meant that the debt servicing issue, it's an issue we are screwed. It's an issue we are going to continue to deal with. Now, and so the only option now we have is the money that's invested productively to generate more wealth to be able to pay. Now, but we are not pushing, because for example, but when you look at the budget, does it feel like by the end of 2026, the agricultural sector would have been more empowered to a point we would have cut on importation of food?
No, but that's unfortunate. The agriculture sector has the second largest budget.
Yeah.
Next to the national debt service.
Yeah.
The agriculture for 2025, what was approved was around 6 billion total, and 5.3 billion of that was supposed to go into development.
Yeah.
2026 also, the proposed amount is around 7 billion.
Yeah.
5.4 billion of that is supposed to go into agriculture.
Yeah.
Look, agriculture is, in simple terms, a failure of a sector probably caused by the Minister of Agriculture.
But is it because the money for agriculture, money has always been there?
Yes.
I mean, it's always gone there, either through the government or through donors.
Yes.
Now, the problem has always been, is something fundamentally wrong with what is being spent on.
Yes.
Like,
the biggest problem with agriculture, I believe, is incompetence. Mustafa.
or do you think it's corruption, Lamin, also? Because
Corruption is
incompetence,
obvious.
there are,
Corruption is obvious.
Yeah.
But once you do the budgeting, there are, for example, if you say 500, 100 million will go into agricultural equipment and machinery, obviously it will go into agricultural equipment and machinery, right? So there is something incompetence in implementing the projects, and also probably inequitable dissemination of project benefits. Like for example, if you buy tractors, you distribute it to people that support you, or you distribute it to a specific region, neglecting another.
politically.
Exactly. So that
I mean,
leaves
that
on
used to be very popular with Jame. I'm not sure it's very popular with Barrow. I mean,
exactly
Seriously?
uneven distribution.
it doesn't seem to be more like Jame in that regard.
I mean, but it's happening. I mean, it's still happening.
Maybe I need to look into that. But the other issue is, Lamin, if you look at it, so for example, isn't it also partly because of the situation that these projects are designed outside, a lot of them, and they are designed by or at least they are designed for outside, either by outside or for outside funding. And when they are done so, they are designed in a way to tick those boxes, to tick the boxes of those donors, to a point that it doesn't factor a lot of local consideration. So that if you go to our village, for example, if you pay attention, when you are branching off from Bani, there is a billboard there saying there is a fish pond in Salekele and all of that. But there is no fish pond in Salekele. You and I know that.
I think they attempted
started
it. They
digging the
attempted
ground.
it, yeah.
Yes,
But
but that money has been spent on that project as well.
exactly, this is it.
But there is no
Incompetence.
fish pond in Salekele.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
incompetence in implementing projects is the,
Yeah.
is the problem with the Ministry of
Or
Agriculture.
is it just that they don't care? Like these people are not interested in the lives of the people. They're just interested in the project comes, we implement the project, and we tick the box and we get paid.
It's actually more of the corruption than anything else. Look at most of those projects. From the time I was going to school, high school, you had this project. I remember when I was going to high school, the most popular was RDP, Rural Development
yes.
Project.
Yes.
And it was all over the place. You had experts from all over and money flowing in all the
We
time.
have Jal Pachar way back since I was not
Jahal
born.
Pachar, ADB, we put in tens of millions of dollars into
yes.
Jahal Pachar. Jahal Pachar alone should have been able to feed the Gambia. But it's not happening because the money is the corruption that's depriving us of the development outcomes. When you take any project in the Gambia today, all the money that comes in goes into administrative expenditure. Very little trickles down to development. Ministry of Agriculture is where you have the highest concentration of educated Gambians, from the masters to the PhDs, etc. You have them in just all over the place. But they're not able to achieve anything because they are constrained by their ministry. They are let down by the political authorities overseeing them. That's why it's not happening. NRA has a very good breed and a very good crop of scientists. What are they doing? Nothing. Go to the NRA offices in Yundum. You just feel like shouting.
You mean the National Research
Agricultural Research Institute?
Yeah.
There is nothing there. Their offices are empty.
We used to have agriculture extension workers in bulk.
No? The National Agricultural Research Institute, there is nothing there.
So why do you think then?
But what I was going to say, again, at one point, I was hesitating between studying medicine and agriculture. And I worked for 1 year at Ministry of Agriculture after my A-levels. We had seed multiplication plants in Yundum. And we were multiplying improved seeds.
Back then,
Late 70s. We're doing it then. I was working with a guy called Anderson, and we had this director, Ruben Thomas, who was one of the best I came across in this country. They were encouraging this sort of development. We are doing agronomical research in those areas, multiplying seeds, improved seeds, etc. And we were giving it out to the country, in the country. We had seed stores where seed was stored. So if we had built on all of that now, we would have had an industrial base stemming from agricultural processing. But we don't process anything in the agricultural sector here. Take even the drinks that we order from abroad every year, it's billions of dollars. These are things we could have produced in the country.
What did you say? The
Drinks.
Drinks.
Yeah, drinks.
As in,
Canned drinks,
Yeah.
bottled drinks. We are ordering billions every year from abroad, and they are just chemical products. Hardly any fruit juice in
And they're
them.
made of tamarind,
Exactly.
mango,
Oranges, what have you. And we have them all
banana
here.
and all this,
We could do it here. If we were interested in that, just that sector could produce hundreds of jobs every year.
Agricultural sector.
Agricultural sector. No, just the fruit juice sector.
Yeah.
There are people around this country
But
now.
there's a private sector, Lamin, that's also into this area. And this private sector somehow, do you think the government should come and provide a bit of a push? Because there's private sector in these sectors, in agriculture, but they are not doing quite well. I mean, even in rice cultivation, there's a private sector.
Okay, let's start with rice cultivation. 2 years ago, they borrowed $50 million from Badea.
Yeah.
And they give it to one person. For whatever reason, they give the money back, they said.
Yeah, because that one person doesn't have the capacity to execute that project.
Exactly, but even if you had the capacity,
But couldn't the
what you
government
need,
have been
what
part
you-
of that institution, that project itself?
that project is an on-lending project.
Yeah.
You borrow $50 million from Badea, You bring it here, you break it into lots, and you lend different people in the country. You need those kind of big farmers who will be more directed towards exported sector. But you don't want to turn all of our agricultural sector workers into farm hands. So what you would do in a $50 million project, you break it into lots, you take 50 million, 50,000 here, $100,000 there, you go to the women farmers, the poultry breeders, the sheep breeders, etc. You lend them money and they work in cooperatives. And you provide mentorship for them. Not just in money to swim or sink. Provide mentorship for them to continue producing. Buy equipment for the farmers, rice farmers. You buy planters, you buy harvesters, combined harvesters, you buy hauling machines for them. You buy all bagging machine. For a start, until they can get on their own feet, and then they will take care of their industry by themselves. If you do that, and you provide them improved seeds, fertilizers, proper irrigation, when they will be farming not just once a year, but 3 or 4 times in the year harvesting, anybody who has a 1 hectare farm can generate minimum $600,000 from that farm, assuming they produce about, and with Nerika, they can produce about 10 tons per hectare, right? Even if they sell that bag of rice, a ton is 20 bags. Even if they sell 1 bag for $1,000, not 2,300 or we'll get into 3,000 now, just for 1,000, they can make $200,000 every harvest from that farm. If they harvest 3 times in the year, that's 600,000. If they have 2 hectares, they make $1.2 million. That farmer is lifted out of poverty immediately into well-being. And the next year, if he doesn't farm 5 hectares, it's because he didn't have more land. So this is how you do it. You can do that by changing their lives overnight. Tell the vegetable farmer in Combo, in Badibu, in Nyomi, whatever amount of tomatoes you produce, we'll buy it. Build cold storage for them, where they can sell and keep the rest of themselves until the following year.
And that's part of the, there are 2 fundamental problems when it comes to our agriculture. One is, I mean, for horticulture particularly, you have the issue of cold storage. So for example, if you harvest, there is going to be too much. I mean, there's going to be a glut, and then there will be no price.
That's what I'm talking about. Those are the post-harvest losses that you incur.
Yeah, that's
But
still happening.
if you give them proper storage facility, they don't have to sell everything.
Yeah.
They can store it there and be selling gradually.
Yeah.
So today what happens is the lady who comes to the market with her lettuce, if it doesn't sell, she just throws it away. Because
This will help the people also, because the average person will have access to quality vegetable throughout the
year.
all
There
year
is no
round,
price.
yeah.
But you buy the
and
surplus.
it will be adequately preserved.
The government can buy the
quality.
surplus.
You need that,
We can make
especially.
tomato paste.
Yeah.
We can make mango juice. We can make carrot juice. We can make all sorts of juices from those agricultural produce.
Yeah.
And we can sell some, you can make some into jams, into whatever. So many things you can do with that.
But let's go to before we spend all of the time talking about how we can be productive. I think we have there's some sense that we've established certain things that government could actually be doing. That
Just like the processing sector and industrial sector based on agriculture.
Yes. So if you look at currently, what we are doing is we're maintaining the government essentially, because I mean in the report that you people have taken to the parliament, you presented it to Public Finance Committee, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So which is of course your guy Lamin Alaji Dabo. Yes, he's the chairperson, and in that thing you guys argued that the budget list is heavily skewed towards recurrent expenditure. And that is to pay that's basically to maintain salary.
Upkeep of the central government.
To pay salary and things.
Exactly, office equipment,
and rents
furniture and fittings, rents.
And rents.
Things
Furniture
like
and fittings. Every year they have to buy furniture. And that's 90% of the money. Is that?
GLF, government
That's the
local
government
fund.
that's the money government generates locally. 90% of that is all going to
Yes,
maintaining the government itself.
Yeah, you could say primarily I mean,
So essentially, we look out to others to help us to develop.
yes. Now, but
So it's priorities.
the issue with which I think the government has gotten to a point where they have to strategically downsize. Otherwise, we're going to have this increment in our recurrent expenditure. As you can see, the recurrent expenditure.
Strategically downsize, you mean retrenchment?
Yes.
Let go of folks.
Yes. I mean, obviously with beautiful package. I mean, obviously severance packages, but we need to at this
Retrenchment
point.
is never beautiful.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, strategically, or the government can come up with means to enhance its productivity, production, and then maybe the people that will be taken out of the public sector can be taken into those sectors, so that
So
will
they
not
become
lose.
more productive.
Yes, they will not also lose their jobs, but also the country will benefit greater from it, and they will also be more
I
productive.
remember Barrow said that they need more people. The government is understaffed by, I think, something
Yes,
like
yes. In
3,000 people.
some areas, we need more people. In some sectors of the government, we need more people. But in other sectors, we do not. I think, if not downsize, maybe restructure
Right.
the government. Right size, exactly. I think if they do that, it's all for the best interest of the country.
We have
Because at
been
this
trying
point
to
in
right
time,
size with the military, it didn't work.
we need to do it all. And funny thing is there is a project that is called Public Administration Modernization Project.
Yeah.
Around last year it was around 645 million. This year 656 million.
Yeah,
Where
but
five
there's a security sector reform project.
exactly.
This
But
project
the
he's
money
what he's talking about, that's very interesting. Let him finish on that because it's a very interesting project.
Yeah.
the money going into that project is a lot of money. But
Yeah.
there are 5 government entities that are to be modernized. The National Audit Office, Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, Ministry of Health, Public Service Ministry, and Basic and Secondary Education Ministry. But if you look at the budgeting under that project, it's alarming. It's more like an extension of the recurrent expenditure, the recurrent budget. Where you have travel expenses in millions, vehicles in millions, printing expenses going into huge sums of money.
Yeah.
It is one project that we do not need. One project that if we do away with, we could even reduce our deficit. Under 2 billion, we can reduce our deficit significantly.
Yeah.
But this project is there. It's meant to modernize our public administration. But how?
But I mean, you see, I have this problem with people. Like, for example, they go to development donors to even buy a slippers. When you go to development donors to say, I want to change my law, bro, you have a legal department that is drafting the law. Draft it and take it to the parliament. Or you go to, or they say, oh, we want to reform our security. Reform it. Like,
Exactly,
why
without
do you need
incurring a
money to
lot
do
of
that?
costs.
And that's why I said the project he's talking
Without-
about.
Yes, without putting in a lot of money. And,
Yeah.
and this project is entirely government local fund. It is expected that.
But do you not think also, Lamin, this is because even in the civil society, even in the media, this problem is there. I've had people who keep telling me investigative journalism is expensive. I say, look, I have created, with colleagues, 2 specialized investigative journalism organizations with no seed money, nothing to start with. All I had with my own money, eat at home, go and do some work. Okay? If I've got any funding after that, it's 1 year later. Yeah? But in the Gambia, aren't we also too obsessed with money?
Our government, especially.
Because that's also clogs the power of the mind. Like, is that also?
The creativity goes out of the window.
Yeah.
And the honesty and integrity follows it immediately.
Yeah.
What Lamin was talking about that's a project World Bank funded.
Yeah.
And it is meant for what? To ensure proper governance. What that project is telling the Gambia is your governance structures stink. Go do it properly and make your government function much more efficiently. That was what that project was supposed to be. But instead it was turned around into another administrative expenditure sector where the money is going into enriching other people instead of making the governance structures better.
And the money is not even here yet. I think the World Bank has put the condition of like the government has to fund it themselves, and then later on
they get
will
refunded.
But if you look at these institutions and they said they are going to monetize. So, for example, we are having NOA, right, National Audit Office, and we know what National Audit Office is doing, and the government is still. It's fighting National Audit Office and the outcome of its own work, you know. But they're still taking money to modernize it. Like,
Yeah, because National Audit Office was bringing out things that they didn't want to, the public to see, particularly in a pre-election year.
Yeah.
That was the problem. You see, let's take two examples. National Audit Office wanted to audit GRA,
yeah.
and they refused to be audited. And government didn't do anything
And
about it.
nobody could do anything
Right?
about it.
Last year,
We have
they
this
pushed.
problem with ports also, where we gave
$4 billion was given in, duty waivers and tax waivers.
Yeah.
What could you
But
do with that
also,
money?
ports was given to a company that's now going to take a bank loan.
A bank loan?
It's as though we cannot also
And they
take a
said
bank
they
loan
could have done
ourselves and
that.
invest it.
They're going to bring in money, but they don't have the money, and we've been saying that for years now, for 2 years virtually. They
I
don't have
think
the money.
it's apparent
They
with
don't
that
put
letter
money.
from Usman.
Yeah, but why did they in the first place give them that contract?
Yeah.
What that Al-Bayrak did basically was bring in a couple of managers to do proper management of this place. You see, for all the intents and purposes, it's a management contract. It's not a construction contract.
So
They didn't bring in anything.
Yeah.
Don't we have enough people in the country here with
manage it.
management acumen to do this job? Of course we do. But they don't want to appoint those people because there are no kickbacks, there's no corruption built into it. That's the problem. But the other point I was going to make, second one after GRA, last year they forced out scores of young Gambians who were in the cement business, were importing cement from Senegal, right? And they said it because it was to protect the cement industry. We don't have a cement industry in the country. We have cement packaging companies, that's all we have.
Yeah.
And when they forced them out, the government reported to Parliament $25 million in proceeds from the import of cement from Senegal. And the National Audit Office went, Boubacar Siddiqui Jammeh wrote this 2 years ago. Nobody listened, the people are castigating him. National Audit Office asked for documents from Senegalese customs. And only Sahel Cement alone, and Senegal, they have Sahel, they have Dangote, they have Sokosim. Sahel Cement alone, what they brought here in cement, the tax, what the documents they gave from the customs in Senegal, the tax alone should have been $370 million. And what did NRA report? 25 million.
Yeah.
So $345 million is just dissipated. This is what we're having in the country.
So isn't part of the
All
problem, isn't part of, because we are talking about debt servicing, we're talking about increasing recurrent expenditure, we're talking about all these problems, we're talking about limited amount of funding going into development budget, but isn't it the case that we are also having an excess waste and corruption to deal with? And that's part of that's the one that's even taking more money away from us.
But that is the core and only problem. That's what's killing us.
Yeah, waste and corruption.
Yeah.
Yes, waste and corruption.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Because you guys are talking about vehicle, you're talking about this. That also has to do with waste, but there is also fundamental level of corruption going on. And
Look,
the waste is in both our government operating expenditure and also in our development expenditure. You see, waste is one of the reasons, and of course corruption, both of them are among the reasons why our recurrent budget is
very high.
at such a high level. Because, for example, travel expenses is in billions,
Yeah.
and travel expenses millions, consultancy millions, trainings millions,
And training particularly, one of the things they do is 3 days. So each person a government trains, the institution they hire gets paid 35,000 for each person for 3 days. And the person who gets trained is paid by his institution 25,000. So for training 3 days, so each person who gets trained is paid 35. So they take corner institutions, they like this one apartment colleges. So they hire one for each training. It's a huge kickback scheme. A lot of it, in fact, I see in the news, a lot of it is handled by people who are in government.
Yeah, but some
owned by people in government.
Yeah.
Owned by people in government.
Yeah.
And they pay themselves those huge kickbacks.
Yeah.
Let me finish.
I mean, even the trainings, you have these short-term trainings that you've mentioned. There are long-term trainings
Yeah.
as well, where you go for
But these are
overseas
things that an
studies.
MDI or GTTI or University of the Gambia could have handled at no cost to the
yes,
government.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that tells you, okay, there is waste.
Or
in-
even
in
if it's at a cost to the government, it's still revolving within the government.
Mhm.
Because you will give money to the University of the Gambia. If you give them training or MDI training, you basically, but no, they take it to private. Of course, they would say, well, it's.
Yeah, but that speaks to the lack of coordination among government entities.
Yeah.
Government entities are kind of competing with one another, or they're like strangers to one another. Even in terms of data sharing, it's like you are your own entity, I am my own entity. People working in the government.
But that can only happen where a center does not hold, because there should be a center that should coordinate all of this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
You see, if you have proper management, you have proper terms of reference defined, and proper performance contracts designed for everybody to live by, you won't have this happening. Those training institutions most of the time belong to government officials who set up these institutions, who give themselves contracts through friends we know how it happens. And audits one day will bring these things out. As you said, if you want to do that properly, you turn it into a certification program for the University of the Gambia or GTTI or MDI or whatever, and they will train people properly and certificate them for those kind of jobs in the future. Why do you have to pay $25,000 for a short-term training?
Now to train only over 3 days.
Right.
Or even 2 days. Even if it's
The
1 day, they
average-
pay 25
Yes.
for the individual.
The average tuition fee for a student in the University of Gambia averages about $45,000
Yes.
a year.
This one they pay to the institution 35,000.
5,000
Yeah.
for a 2-3 day program.
And if
Give
they
that
are
to
also
the
by,
University of the Gambia.
yeah,
You give them more capacity in terms of financial base. You give the students more qualifications, which they can use later on to develop themselves in the country. In addition, you create emulation all over the place. So this is, for example, what makes us very different from Senegal. They give a high premium to training. They are highly trained civil service, very competent, because they have all types of training institutions which conduct these kinds of training in the government structures. And the money goes to those institutions to use again the following years to recycle. And so they have highly competent people. When you take our people, you go for a 2-3 day, 1 week seminar, they pay the kind of money, come out, you have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
And
But again, even if it's not just training, even for visa, government visa services, right? I remember there was a time, Jamie, they audit government traveling, and they brought the audit report to Jamie. When he saw the cost of a visa and all these things, and he compared it to the cost of actual visa and the cost of the government visa, because government visas, they are both through intermediaries. And so when the visa is $5,000, for example, it's 10,000 for government, because the intermediaries have to put their own charges. They have to also put the kickbacks they pay to the people who bring them this transaction. And so when he compared the two, immediately he stopped. That is when Jame brought GIA into State House to now do the procurement for government for visa. And GIA actually did worse than the private.
there you go.
Then GIA was audited. Jame kicked them out just instantly. I mean, it's something is wrong with this country. Like I cannot.
No, what is wrong is the top structures of the country.
But government is issuing luxury services, like.
But it's
accountability. Accountability.
That's not what they're supposed to be doing. But because there is impunity, it's because there is no checking of what is happening.
Yeah.
People get away with anything. The private sector is performing these things so much better, cheaper, and they'll tell you, oh, no, we have to privatize everything because we're not performing.
Yes.
It's the same people in the private sector.
Yes.
You just make them perform, give them performance contracts, give them service level agreements, etc., and let them perform to those levels. And if they don't perform, there are consequences.
We are just about to sell or at least partially privatize Gamcell and Gamtel.
Yeah.
And just as we did partly with ports. Okay? But
And you know, for Gamcell,
yeah.
people with 15, 20 years service are getting only $200,000 to go. Why? Why? And even that is contingent on government paying their pension contributions that have not been paid yet. So they are stuck, they can't even get that money.
But the problem is, why is a private sector in that same industry making profit, and a government sector in the same industry is not making profit, regardless of all the...
And they own the infrastructure.
Yes, they own the
So
infrastructure.
they are still making losses.
Yes.
Why?
How is that tolerated? How is Jar Oil making incredible amount of profit, opening fuel stations even in the bush, right?
In the middle of agglomerations.
EMPC is here, has been here many years before Jar Oil. They cannot even make reasonable amount of, and they're selling fuel at pump the same price like Jar Oil.
Yeah, but the problem with that, Mustafa, is that government workers mostly see themselves as, this is not mine, this is theirs. So I don't have to be competent, I don't have to work hard, I don't have to do much, and at the end of the day I will get my money. Whereas in the private sector, if you do not do, there are consequences.
Yeah.
The biggest problem in the government is that
There's
are
no
no
consequences.
accountability measures in place to prevent such incompetence or incompetent behavior, to prevent it from happening, or when it happens,
Punished.
to punish it.
Okay, let's stop there. Let's go to now another issue I have observed in the Gambian budget, and that's government. The people pass the budget. The parliament pass the budget. That's the people anyway. But does the government follow the same budget? So we have had
Not strictly,
not strictly,
because of
and the government is a law, and the budget is a law, right?
But-
That's why it gets passed by the parliament.
yes, but parliament, you know, the parliament parliament has a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I think I think probably they are not using their powers in the right way, or probably they are not able to. Parliament has the right, of course, to pass the budget. When they pass the budget, the executive is supposed to go by what is in the budget. But there are provisions that can allow for the executive to deviate in some instances from what is approved.
But this is environment.
Environment, yes.
But not to just go and spend money on something that is not totally...
That's not budgeted at all.
That's not budgeted at
That's
all.
where Parliament comes in. Even with the case of environment, Parliament comes in there.
Yeah.
Parliament can they make laws, right? They can amend laws,
Yeah.
right? Environment is such a huge problem, which it is.
They can remove it from the
They
laws.
can either remove it or adjust it
Yeah.
to make sure that the executive goes by the budget, what is approved, to a degree that is allowed. But at this point, it is done. Environment is being done at a level that is unacceptable. I mean, you see that it's happening for years, and Parliament is not doing anything about
Let me
it.
give you a few examples, Lamin. We have seen environment being used in situations that government likely thinks those things will not pass through the parliament.
Oh, they think they are important. Those things are very,
No, they
very
may
important.
think they are important, but when I have an opportunity to fund something that I know will not get a parliamentary approval, then that becomes very problematic. Because, for example, the government went and passed the media service contract, right? Okay, when the media service contract was conceived in 2023, it was in June, but they didn't put it in the budget. Okay, they waited until 2024 and via money to it.
Yeah. But,
So it could have been put in the budget, but they deliberately leave it out
yes. Now,
because they probably knew it would not pass the
It will-
parliament.
yes. But now FPAC, the National Assembly has committed. FPAC
Yeah.
is supposed to ensure that there is scrutiny of
Yeah.
public accounts even during execution.
Yeah.
Can't there be quarterly reporting to FPAC or even monthly reporting to FPAC so that they can? This is what they are supposed to do. This is their responsibility actually, so that they can assess the executive's budget spending, and if any of these things come up, they will see it, right? Because the report will be submitted to them. They will see it, and they will find a way to avoid that, or to avert that, or to stop that from happening. the lack of scrutiny, the lack of oversight that is in the government is why we have all of these problems. Some of these problems can be avoided. Some of these problems we do not have to wait for them to come to us at the end of the year. We could be monitoring government spending. Parliament could be monitoring government spending on a monthly basis, even on a weekly basis.
Because some of the things I can give you a list of the things. So, for example, the issue of people didn't know that this Mama Jabi 1 million was going to be paid by the public.
State budget.
It was said that it was going to be paid by the president. The president allocated whatever. Second issue is the media service contract. If you look at also the nationwide tour, there's always a huge gap between how much money is allocated, and this is the Minister of Finance just does this just at will like that, you know. These are things that you can project almost fairly accurately how much you are going to spend, because you know the population of, you know the people who are going to be on a tour, you know what is going to cost, because this is something that's traditional from independence. So you can almost accurately project.
Not almost accurately, you can.
Accurately project the expenditure, but they always spend way above. And the other issue is sometimes even they increase salaries without the parliament knowing. You know, so for example, these are the judges.
Yes.
Not just look at this year, look at this year's budget.
Yeah.
Go into the document.
It's not.
Go check Ministry of Defense,
Yeah.
Ministry of Interior,
Yeah.
IEC, and a few other institutions like that. Salaries have been increased sometimes up to by 70%. And it's not reported. And there's no major salary increase in the budget this year.
Even for
But
the
they
judges,
have
it's
been,
not
go
reflected
check in the details. The devil is in the...
There was a bill that was brought
Yes.
to the parliament
Yes.
to increase but this is after the judge's salary, 3 months after the judge's salary was already
They
increased.
smuggled them in.
Yeah. The salary was increased in June.
Go look at this year's budget. The devil is in the detail. Go look in there.
Exactly.
Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Interior, IEC, Foreign Affairs. Go check. Some of them have increased the salaries by about 50 to 70% in those ministries. And it's not reported. But why is Parliament not picking that out? Because they give you a 500-page document to look at in a month.
But some of
It should be
these
given
things,
that
some of
Parliament
these
should
things,
insist on
but some
having
of
this
these things,
document.
Mr. Mane, the parliament knows they are happening.
That's what I'm saying. Parliament should insist on having this document at least 2 to 3 months before, and they can properly scrutinize it using budget, subject matter specialists, sit with the people in Parliament. Very few of them are financially literate, right?
But isn't that
So
largely
bring-
an excuse?
No. What
At
I'm
this
saying,
point,
what I'm saying
at this point,
is, since they're not financially literate, bring in subject matter specialists to sit with them and walk them through the budget. Don't let the government do it. The government will bamboozle them. Let Parliament insist on having subject matter specialists that it brings in, and who will walk them through the budget and show them all the wrongdoing in the budget, and let them put their foot down. But they don't do it because the NPP NAMs will just vote for it blindly because that's what Barrow wants. But environments should be outlawed. And only in very few cases should they be accepted with parliamentary approval. Why is it that we never see the actuals of the budget every year? We never see it. It's hidden. They will see the estimates, but they never give us the actuals. Parliament sometimes has it, but they don't even talk about themselves. They keep it quiet because if everything is overspent. Why did President Barrow last year have 45 million for the Media People tour, and he spent over $60 million?
Yeah.
This year he has 52, and if you go by the projection, the trends from the past, he's going to spend at least 70 million this year.
Yeah.
Why?
That's either huge level of recklessness or huge level of
Recklessness and corruption.
Because if you can project 40 and you have to spend 60,
yeah.
something very unusual has to happen.
It's a corrupt practice.
Or that it's a very incompetent way of projecting expenditure.
It's a corrupt practice because it's
their guesstimate and say, oh, you can spend anything you like. So they will spend anything they like. They will bring in new things. They will bring in new groups to come and dance for him and drum for him and cook for him and do attire for him, whatever. And you pay them extra because the money will always come from somewhere. But if you have proper budgeting, but more importantly, Why on earth does Barrow have to spend $52 million to go around and meet the farmers and hear them tell about their complaints? You need no more than $5 to $7 million to do that. So if you were to cut $45 million from those 57, that will leave him $7 million. That should be way more than enough to do this tour. And if you take that, the $45 million, you can give tuition scholarships to 1,000 students at UTG. Because the average student's tuition fee average is about $40,000 to $45,000 a year.
Yeah.
If you take 45 million, that's 1,000 students you can pay tuition for in UTG. Is that not much more productive than waste it in a 3-week tour?
Yeah.
That is what we need. We need to spend money differently. We need to spend money in ways that are going to be productive. Barrow can go with no more than 10 people on this tour. You have in every region directors of education, directors of health, directors of
agriculture,
everybody is there. You have the governors, you have the chiefs and alcalos.
You have the chairpersons.
Go sit with those people and the selected people from the community.
The councils.
Yes.
A government at the grassroots.
Exactly. Sit with those people. That's what
That's what
Jawara used to do.
To the markets, they know everything.
That's what Jawara used to do. This is supposed to be a listening exercise. You go sit with them, listen to them, take down their demands and needs, and you come back and design programs and projects around them for implementation. But what they do is a disguised campaign. They just go there, spend money, induce here, buy votes there, and all sorts of things, except what they're supposed to do. So this is the kind of different spending you're talking about. How do we spend the money in ways that are more productive? How do we, instead of having 87 vehicles from OIC costing $1 billion and 80 million, why don't you take each one of those vehicles, take one vehicle, 12.5 billion. You can drill, as I said, 50 boreholes in every region. You can build more toilet facilities in schools. You can train more nurses and doctors for the hospitals. You can train solar power operators for schools to have solar power installed for schools, etc. Any one of those vehicles, 5 million can drill with 50 boreholes. Another million can equip a number of schools. Another million can provide latrines and the rest for the schools. Another million can train 20 to 30 nurses. And imagine. Imagine 1 million. How many nurses and doctors you can train from that? That's what we're talking about. That's the different expenditure we're talking about, prioritization of expenditure. That you put the money where the government is supposed to put money and invest for the development of the country.
Government's mouth is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. So just finally, I've kept you guys too long, and now we've talked about a lot of things. Finally, regarding this 50,
I wanted to comment on the issue of this reporting. Dr. Mani, the actual part and the reporting of it in the budget that you mentioned is quite important.
Yeah.
And the government doesn't do comprehensive reporting of the actual spending. There's a component in the budget that when you look at the first column in terms of the figures, that is the actual that it gives you. But I will go into that, but before that, I want to say that if you have a budget that is 10 million and your actual comes out at 64 million, that is not improper planning. That is a corrupt practice. There is no way that your budget deviation could go all the way over 50%.
Yeah.
That's a corrupt practice right there.
Yeah.
So
because I was going to say it's either that or it's total incompetence.
No,
because
it's corrupt practice.
You've been doing something since independence.
Yes.
You cannot not know
exactly
all the boxes that are supposed to be ticked as part of that process.
Yeah. I mean, we all know the prices of goods and services in the country. So if you are gonna do the budgeting, you will do it to a level that even if the deviation happens, it will be probably in the 10% or even less than that.
Even in construction.
Yeah.
Sometimes
But
the variance are extremely high.
But more than 10 million and now 64 million, more than 100% deviation. That's a lot. That's a corrupt practice.
Yeah.
But now coming back to the actual reporting of the budget, I think this is the part where even the National Assemblies fall short. Right?
They don't.
And there are
The
many
budget.
things the National Assembly falls.
But this part is huge. This part affects their decision making. I don't know if they know it or not, but it affects their decision making because you have to look at the actuals past year spending to determine how much to give a
The
ministry,
next year,
right?
Yeah.
For example, you see, again, I'll focus on our development here. You see, the recurrent budget component is fairly explained in terms of the actuals because it's GLF based. So the government reports the GLF wholeheartedly
Government local
most of the
funds.
time. Yes, government local funds without holding back. But when it comes to project funds that came through, loans that came through, that's where the underreporting is at. And it is huge. It is in the billions. I don't know if I've said this earlier on that for 2024, 9 billion was approved as project grants and only 80-something million is reported to have been received. How is that possible? We reached out to the Ministry of Finance to get the actual data for major projects that were implemented in 2024. We realized that funds were received, but they have not been reported in the budget. Now, the problem with this is if you complain this or if you take this to the National Assembly, the excuse or the justification they can give you is that we look at the government local fund primarily or predominantly. We do not look at the funds that come from donors.
Because the
project
donors,
grants.
they say, will audit it
Yeah,
themselves.
but that's not true.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
oh,
not-
the
it's
donors,
not-
the donors have their conditions. I mean, for goodness sake,
Yeah,
this is a country
yeah. And the
with
money
its
belongs
public
to the
structures.
people
The
in
money
any
belongs to the
case.
people. How it's going to be spent should not be solely decided by the donors. And I am sure the donors are not solely. Dr. Mane could probably help us on that. But I don't think the donors are solely deciding on that. For example, 300 million going into operating costs, the donors are saying that is fine. I mean, if they are saying that fine to that, that means they really, truly do not want our development. Because, and now, even if that is the case, the government, the National Assembly must fight, National Assembly members must fight to make sure that that is repealed. They must be able to look at the project grant component of the development budget and then order the implementing ministries to distribute the funds in a way that will be best for the country. Because right now, our biggest problem is the lack of transparency that exists with respect to our development budget, specifically our project funds, our donor funds, and also the budgeting done with our project funds, how our project funds are disaggregated, how they are budgeted, is actually very, very unfair and it's wrong. I think it's one of the reasons why our development is hindered. Because you cannot prioritize project operating costs over the core activities of the project. The malaria control services, for example, in this budget that we are looking at, the malaria control services has around 807 million, around $807 million, right? 641 million of that is going into operating costs.
That's a
We
lot.
have a project that is West African Coastal Resilience Investment Project that has a 971 million budget. All of it has been budgeted as operating costs.
Yeah.
There is improper
Operating
budgeting.
costs.
Yes, operating costs is like utilities, salaries, rent and things of that sort. Upkeep of a particular project. You're telling me that the whole money is for the upkeep of that project? That is
Essentially,
improper
we-
budgeting. That is
we-
corrupt
we
budgeting.
budget for the maintenance of government.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is corrupt budgeting.
Yeah.
This is being done by. It's not like this is not only in our 2026 budget. This is in our 2020 budget, 2021 budget, all the way coming down to our 2026 budget. This is a continuous thing that the government, the executive does, that the project implementing units do. They try to hide the information even from the Ministry of Finance. The budget information, how much will go into what, they hide it. In the budget, they hide it from the Ministry of Finance, and this problem is happening. The National Assembly members are not doing anything about it. In fact, we have put it in our recommendations that, look, the development budget is severely underreported. It is severely underreported. The loans, external loans that were incurred during 2024 and the project grants that came in during 2024 are not fully reported in our budget. Make sure it is reported. This is good for them in terms of decision making so that they can determine how much GLF they will give to the ministry. in
Yeah,
terms of how much they
because for
receive.
example, if you are in agriculture, I remember I was listening to Minister of Finance one time. I was saying that he was justifying that one of the reasons why the money for agriculture is measured in terms of the local money, the local funds that goes into it, is that it's getting a lot of funding
funds.
from outside.
Where are the
But-
actuals?
Exactly.
Let's look
But
at the
this is
actuals.
not coordinated this is, nobody knows how much money is going into
Actually,
this.
it is coordinated, but it's simply underreported.
It is underreported.
And we have been drawing the attention of Bretton Woods institutions to this for years now. Look closely at what this government is telling you. There is serious underreporting and hidden debts in this country. Nobody's listening. But we saw it happen in Senegal recently, when they discovered 5 trillion CFA, over $7 billion in unreported debt and hidden debt.
Yeah.
Per capita, we will have much more in this country.
Of course, Makisal is contesting it, even though IMF has already acknowledged it.
And they acknowledge their responsibility in it, but that doesn't stop the Senegalese government having to pay for it.
Yeah.
The Senegalese people are going to have to pay for that, even though the Bretton Woods institution were derelict in duty themselves. But they will still have to pay back that money. And we have the same thing here, but on a higher state level, per capita. The volume will be lower, but per capita, it will be higher here than in Senegal. Because this Ministry of Finance is one of the most corrupt and the most incompetent we've ever had. And they are seriously underreporting.
But Gatigo thinks that Siddiq is actually going in history the most incompetent finance minister.
Okay, so I'm not the only one who thinks that. And that's the truth.
Also, you think so?
That's what I just said.
In the history.
That's what I just said. I said this Ministry of Finance is the most incompetent and most corrupt we've had in this country. That's why I don't think we should be giving them the kind of money we're giving them.
I'm the only one who thinks so.
We have to be honest enough to call out wrongdoing. If we don't, it continues.
I think it's the.
And we see it all over the place.
Comparatively, I don't think we have on Mambure. Do we have this number of?
Mambure was corrupt, but nowhere near this guy.
No, the waste, the amount of waste that's on, and
this is the worst we've had so far.
The audit is an opinion thing. Is it?
Mambure never said that. Mambure never said that.
No, I'm not sure even the current finance minister ever said that, but it's more popular on the.
Well, when his president says it, and he is the one who signs off the audit report, he doesn't protest about that. Isn't he endorsing it? He's acquiescing it. The audit reports go to him for final clearance before it goes to Parliament. He signs it off.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. In the audit reports of 2020, when that came out, we were looking at. There is a section.
That's the government accounts.
Yes, there is a section
accounts,
where they reported income of 30 trillion instead of 30 billion. And that mistake went through the whole of the government structures, the Accountant General's Office, the Ministry of Finance, and Parliament. Nobody detected that mistake. 30 trillion instead of 30 billion. But this is the kind of incompetence we're talking about. People don't even read their own documents. Nobody scrutinizes it. A perfunctory check, somebody will pick it out. But all of the government, not one single person picked it out. I was sitting here one day and I was listening to a program by Noah Cisse and Lamin Konate, and they picked it out. I said, wait a minute. I went back and looked at it, and I called them and said, this must be a mistake. This cannot be correct. 30 trillion is not possible. And they said, we thought so too. And we're trying to reach the Accountant General's Office, but nobody's talking to us. Eventually, they got them, but that was it. 30 trillion was reported. So the incompetence is astounding. And you will also get to a point where
people just don't care.
They don't care. That's what I'm talking about.
They just don't care.
Well, that's part of the incompetence.
It's government.
It's part of the incompetence.
It's not even.
Because there are no consequences.
Yeah, there are no consequences.
But you see, you get to a point where even the budget arbitration should be taken away from the Minister of Finance and given to a Vice President or a Prime Minister or whatever it is. Because you're giving one minister undue power over the rest of the ministers in the government. And they do exactly what they want. They apportion the money the way they want. When you look at the GLF, they have just over 2 billion. But in reality, once the budget support everything comes in, they always have over $4 billion. See, the devil is in the details. When you go into those budgets, you go deep down and look at the different ministries and look at. That's why you find all the amazing things. But in a 500-page document with so many figures, very few people have the time and appetite to go look in there to look at those details.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any training for it, you probably wouldn't even see them. It becomes so tedious.
Yeah.
You don't want to. waste your time on it.
Yeah.
And that's what this government counts on. That's why they get away with murder.
We call it, from our own end, we call it information overload.
Exactly.
So
That's
they
what it
give
is.
you too much
That's what it is.
to chew.
Yeah.
And governments all over the world do it.
They do it.
Even when you ask for too much information, they give you, like, I remember the Jana Commission, one of the things we were doing when we were working on the Jana asset thing was somebody gave us all the evidences Jana Commission. Those are useless. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
the same thing.
flash drives of lot of documents,
They
a
overload
lot
it.
of which is,
You same thing, go to court with a rich person. They'll bring in a battery of lawyers and put in so much documentation and everything that in the end you just give up. Yeah.
And the more difficult part about it is that it's all in the finances, like financial, monetary. When you look at the budget, it's all monetary.
Yeah.
And then these monies need to translate into tangibles.
Mm-hmm.
Their values, like into probably they need to communicate in a way to the citizens, or ordinary citizens, or even National Assembly members in terms of numbers. How many houses, how many schools have you built? How many hospitals have you built? How many road infrastructure have you improved, and all that water facilities, infrastructure in terms of improvement, how much have you done? There is a document called the program-based budget statement.
Yeah.
That document should be a go-to document for all National Assembly members.
Yeah.
Because that document is one document that tells you the translation of the money in the budget.
Yeah.
For example, if it is 2.2 billion for the WASI project,
How it's going to be spent.
how is it going to be spent? We can see there is something like wells, boreholes, water and infrastructure, 200 million or 300 million and all that. Okay, that's there. It's good, but it's not enough. Where? How many? We're talking about, is it boreholes? How many tanks are you going to provide, water tanks and all that? The program-based budget statement should reflect all of that. But it is not properly scrutinized, and also it is being developed, but at a very slow pace. I think National Assembly members should demand for the processing, for the making of that document to be expedited.
You see, this year, it's a 52-page document.
Yeah, the budget.
The program-based
Program-based budget
It's a 52-page document, loaded with figures and esoteric language. For somebody who doesn't have a finance training, you wouldn't understand what's in there. I read through it. It took me a whole night to read through it and go over and digest it. 52 pages, okay? And the budget itself, just
505 pages. The budget is
yes, 505 pages. The budget.
But now
The
National Assembly members they still need further training, further training, right? On the budget.
Now, these are people who are I don't have any excuse for National Assembly.
No.
As a journalist, I work on cases that I have no training on. Zero training.
But you have to
but I go to people who have an understanding of this, and they will communicate. When it comes out, people think I know all of this, but I don't. I go to people who have an understanding of X, Y, and Z, and I talk to them. These guys are paid. National Assembly member, by the way, if their basic salary is 100,000, they are paid probably 6 times more than me. And they cannot do elementary things. I mean, you should.
It's a matter of interest. It's a matter of interest.
They are paid $20,000 per session to come and work.
It's a matter of
$20,000 is myself. Like, how can you?
Mustafa, it's a matter of interest.
You are paid my salary per session to come and do the work
that you're paid to do anyway.
Let's not make excuses for this.
But what I'm saying is, if you are an intellectual, and intellectual for me doesn't mean you are a bachelor's, master's, or PhD. It's somebody with common sense and integrity and willingness to learn and to find out. You should be able to do any of these things and learn. And the important thing there is not to be afraid to say, I don't know.
I don't know, yes.
You are the layman, and the minister and the people coming in the budget are the specialists. You don't come and tell me, oh, no, it's too complicated. No. Tell me. If you know your stuff, explain it to me.
Explain it to me.
If he comes and tells you it's complicated, tell him, make it easy. Make it simple.
He who knows doesn't find it complicated to explain.
When we come to these sessions, I avoid using esoteric language. I don't use acronyms. I don't use language which I think the average Gambian might not understand. I don't use it in law, I don't use it in economics or anything. I try to be as down to earth as possible because the objective is to make every Gambian understand what is happening to them and their
That's
country.
That's what the whole.
And the National Assembly members should be able to take the minister to task. Come sit down, explain to me your budget, and tell me what's in there. I don't need to know it, but you can tell me and let me understand. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know, explain it to me. But what they do is make you afraid to say, I don't know, or you look stupid or unintelligent. No. Okay, maybe I'm stupid, maybe I don't understand. Now you make me intelligent. Tell me, explain it to me. That should be the attitude for everybody. Any so-called expert or intellectual who tries to bamboozle you with anything, tell him, sit down, explain it to me, let me understand. And finally, if I can just conclude on that, because I think this is important. If we have a UDP government in 2026, and I know we will, what we will do is, for example, we'll create management dashboards for the president to start with. So he can sit in his office and look at any ministries or departments, programs, and achievements in real time. Because everyone will be required to fill in their work progress so that no work gets stuck anywhere.
These people, even to get paid, even to get a payment, they get paid if miss allowance to get them to even pay through if miss.
And that if miss is one of the biggest problems.
You want them to have a management dashboard.
Of course they will. No, they will, or they will go. You see, there have to be consequences. So
and that's part of the problem. There's no consequences.
If the person doesn't do it, he goes, somebody else comes. 1. 2, we're going to put in place the performance contracts, which will be monitored on a monthly or quarterly basis, probably a monthly basis. So that nobody will sit at the end of the year and say, oh, I didn't achieve this. We'll walk you through every month. If you are falling behind schedule, you have to explain why you are falling behind schedule. Is it financial resources you don't have? Human resources? We will help you to get those resources and move forward. If we give you those resources and you cannot achieve, there will be consequences. But you're not going to wait till the end of the year and say you didn't perform, just go.
There is currently such kind of contract with the SOE Commission.
Except that it's not implemented. It's not implemented.
No, we have all of these policies. We have these
the infrastructure, the
but
framework is there.
It's the skeleton.
It's the implementation. It's the implementation that's not happening.
I mean, it doesn't have any substance in it.
The substance is there's the implementation that's lacking. And the follow-up and the political will. If you have that political will.
That has to be everything. I mean, and one of the things also that I seem to get when you're thinking about politics is like somehow in our politics, they created a kind of way against them. So, for example, if you said anything to the president, which is an objective truth, the president or anybody close to the president looks at it from the lens of he's an opposition. And so therefore he desensitizes himself from that. And this is also making things difficult.
But that's
why
we have to keep saying it.
Even in the government.
Because in the Gambia, we are finding it difficult to agree to an objective truth.
And that's why we have to keep saying it. Because I say, for example, to Barrow,
there are many camps, religious camps, this camp, that camp, political camps, all this.
I often say with my interventions, Barrow, I don't hate you. I've got nothing against you. What I'm saying actually is for your own good.
But that's because when objective truth, so for example, when you apply that to data, if you provide the data and something, so you are stating an objective truth. Now, you would expect one to look at that objective truth and agree or disagree on that objective truth and provide a response to that objective truth.
Without being sentimental.
Without being sentimental about you. But in this case, that's rarely.
So when I say that,
in governance, you have no luxury to think that or to want to be sentimental, to want to be emotional about things. You have an obligation.
Want to be personal.
Exactly. You have an obligation to be objective. Look, we pay you for that, to be objective and to take criticism constructively. It's quite important. Otherwise, you stunt your own growth. You stunt the growth of the country.
Exactly. The country. And what we tell Barrow is, one day, the day of reckoning will come. And you will be on your own, just like Jammeh was. People are going to walk away and leave you in to face it.
When Jammeh fell in the final days when accountability was coming, one of the things that happened was everybody pushed him aside.
They call him crazy and they didn't listen and all that.
These are people who were serving him. And they call him dictator and they say, hey, you remember, this is Jammeh. I couldn't have done anything.
And it's the same people around Barrow today, helping him do the same things, and when the day of reckoning comes, they will run away.
And some of them were with Jammeh.
Yeah.
Now they are calling him a dictator.
Yeah.
Now they are part of a government that wants to hold him to account. And they were defending the same Jammeh.
And the same will happen to Barrow. He was a clueless president, he didn't listen. You will bear the brunt alone.
So, just finally, because we've been here for too long, the final issue, what could the parliament do with this budget? Is it fixable? And if it's so, I start with you. Is it fixable? And if it's so, because I've seen you guys have sent to them a position paper, is it fixable? And if it's so, what must they do?
It is fixable.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of things that we have included in the position paper, but I'll focus on two things.
Mm-hmm.
Reporting.
Mm-hmm.
Reporting of the actual figures in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
They must be accurate. Parliament needs accurate figures to make the right decisions.
Mm-hmm.
The revenue, especially the non-tax revenue component of the budget, is underreported.
Mm-hmm.
There are omissions, there is underreporting.
Mm-hmm.
Parliament must make sure that all the figures in the budget reflect the actual true figures.
Mm-hmm.
The development component of the budget, all the project grants that have been left out of the current budget,
Mm-hmm.
the external loans, they are saying zero external borrowing was done for 2024, which is not true. So they must make sure that the information in the budget is accurate, comprehensive, complete.
Mm-hmm.
Without looking at full information, I always say this, you will make a half-baked decision.
Yeah.
It is in your own interest to make sure that the information you look at is accurate and complete,
Yeah.
so that you can make the right decision. Reporting.
Mm-hmm.
That is one problem. The
Mhm.
other thing is, I encourage Parliament
Mm-hmm.
to look at the development budget from the lens of donor funding, not from the lens of government local fund.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough.
But government local fund, 90% of it is going into the current.
Exactly, only few is going into development. So
Yeah.
the major chunk of the development budget is donor funded based.
Mm.
Don't think that you cannot look at it. Look at it, assess it, because right now the budgeting, especially with respect, we made the time to look at major projects
Mm-hmm.
that will be implemented in 2026. There are about 15 of them. Each
Yeah.
of them are worth 500 million and above.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They look at those and the budgeting for each of those projects. They will realize that consultancy can go all the way to 200 million, 150
200
million,
million.
100 million. Yeah, it's in the millions. 100 million consultancy is there, 150, 180 million, 200 million. Let them scrutinize that budget line, consultancy. Why is it that much? Secondly, operating costs. A whole project budget can be termed operating costs. Why is it that, look, justifications can be given, but here is the thing. What is the solution?
Should we accept some justifications?
No,
Because
you can give the justification. The end point is it still wrong? If it is still wrong, correct it. But the justification should not be given just to let's say
And they accept it like that.
skip the correction. Because normally justification is given to skip the correction.
Mhm.
For example, yes, we have a problem with IFMIS. We have a problem with ministries reporting. That's why we lumped everything under project operating cost. Okay, we know that is a problem. That's the justification you have given. Correct the problem before you pass the budget. Because operating cost is a huge problem for our budget. It is a corrupt practice that the parliament must look into and make sure that it is regulated. Reporting, operating cost issue, and also right sizing the government, the public sector, and making sure that the recurrent expenditure is significantly reduced. Right now, if you give them the justification, because recurrent budget has a component that the government gives justification for saying, oh, it's not all government spending, government office spending. It has input subsidy, it has energy subsidy. Input subsidy is around 1.3 billion, energy subsidy is around 1 billion. It also has social benefits, pensions, gratuities, injuries compensation fund, and then also other expenses that are about scholarships, that are about, support to victims and all that. If you take all of that amount and put it in the development budget will go up by 23.89 billion. The current budget will go down to 22 billion. Still, 22 billion is a lot of money to spend on office expenditure and all that. They right size the government and then make sure that the recurrent budget is reduced significantly so that the funding that is generated through tax, non-tax, and other means is considerably or significantly allocated to development, and then accountability is ensured, transparency is ensured while development projects are being implemented. All the money that comes in and all the money that comes in and is put into our development must be reported. All of it, nothing left out. Everything must be reported to our parliament and also to the public. Parliament should not just think that, okay, the reporting is done to us, that's it. No. Parliament has a responsibility, the government has a responsibility to make sure they report to the parliament as much as they report to the public. The citizens can hold the parliament accountable, they can hold the government accountable. So the reporting must be done in a fairly manner to parliament as much as to the citizens. So in their reports that they publish online, they must be complete. The information presented in the reports must be complete. They should not wait on the citizens to go to them and use access to information act to request for information. They must take the initiative to publish the documents with full information on their website so that citizens can look at those documents, scrutinize them, and help them do their work properly, because it takes a village to build a nation, not just one section of the village, but all the village members to build a nation. That means, in real terms, that means the citizens, the government, and everyone else. Yes, this is what I have to say finally.
Finally, what do you think, what must we do? In the first place, can it be fixed? And if it can't be fixed, what must we do?
It should be fixable if the political will is there. See, when you have youth like that, so passionate about what's happening in the country, and so invested, and they take their time to do this for the government, not getting paid. They are helping government to do the right thing. See these people as partners. They won't say the opposition, they don't like us, whatever, which shouldn't be the case, because we are bringing out the problems that can help us all improve and get better. But they have their reasons for not wanting.
Ismaila says there is no...
Yeah, I don't even mention that one. I waste my time on that one. But take at least civil society, take youth like that, who are coming to you with proposals to make your job easier. If you don't listen to the opposition, listen to at least them and see what you can do to fix this. If the political will were there, we would listen to it. When I came in, I said, Lamin, bravo, you're doing a great job. Before the program started, because I follow these people. It's important that we listen to these youth and see what they are saying, because these are the people who are we're working for them. They're the ones who are going to run with this. So if they're invested and they're interested in what is happening, there is hope for this country. But we must listen to them. They won't get it all right, we won't get it all right, nobody will get it all right, but let's blend those ideas and cross-fertilize each other's ideas and make it happen for the country. If we don't, the only way to do it, make it happen, is to change the government and change it quickly. Because, you see, today we're living off what? Debt, taxes, and grants. Nothing else. Look at our budget. What do we have from dividends from government institutions and parastatals? What do we have from the productive sector? Nothing comes into the government. All the revenue from the government is from taxation, from non-tax revenue, from grants, from loans. Nothing from industry or productive sectors of the economy that will help us grow the country and the economy. We cannot live like that. If we develop certain sectors, they will generate revenue, they will generate development, they will generate industries, and we have a base on which to build to grow. If we continue like this, we're going to tax every Gambian into poverty. People are, see, when tax gets to a certain level, it's not just tax avoidance, it becomes tax evasion, which is a crime. But people start tax evasion because they can't continue to pay. When we develop that base, we bring in additional revenue, we bring in additional jobs, we create a basis for industrial development, and that is going to take the country to the level we want it to go. So we will have a wider tax base, more revenue coming in, and we can lower taxes. But if your tax base is so small, you have no other option but to raise taxes. And by that, you end up making everybody poor. I was talking to somebody yesterday who told me, look, you know what, I started a bottling plant in the Gambia, but what they're charging me for water is 60 bututs on every bottle. And he said, in fact, it's cups for them. But they're paying 60 bottles on every cup, and he had 7 employees. He had to lay off 3. The profit margins are shrinking, and he is wondering whether he can continue this business. This is somebody who is outside investing here. And that is the same litany of woes you hear everywhere in the country. People have come back here to invest, and they packed up and went back because there's no conducive environment for them to invest and grow. The market is cornered by a few people who squeeze everybody out. And these are people who pay even less tax than anybody else. They have given special investment certificates, they are given tax breaks, they are given waivers. That's why.
In fact, in my experience, I have checked a lot of the people, because whenever we are working on a particular person or its subject matter, we try to find out their tax records. A lot of the time, a lot of these big guys who are very politically connected, they don't pay tax. In fact, recently I just checked on one who got an SIC. The SIC expired, and then that's it.
Exactly.
They expire and they
Again,
forget about it.
For the average listener, the SIC is what I said, it's special investment certificate, because you have to explain that to the people. I try to avoid using those acronyms.
Yes, it expires, they forget about it.
Yes, they don't need to renew it, because they are giving kickbacks to somebody, they are financing government campaigns, etc., so they get away with it.
And that's another form of illegal campaign financing.
Of course it is.
When you are using states to give favors to a businessman who is also funding indirectly, that's illegal campaign financing. You don't have to move the money, but the money is moving.
And when the elections are over, they can just do whatever they like to recoup that money and more, because they have the backing of the state. This is why it becomes dangerous when the state gets captured by a few people who will just manage it the way they like, and the government. That's it. It's a plutocracy, and it gets to a point where we will just lose control over everything in the country.
Well, but so what must we do? Because for you have to. I think you are talking about changing governments.
Yes, that's the only way. We've had this government for 9 years. And it's not getting better; it's getting worse.
It's going to be 10 next.
It's getting worse. There is no possibility of reforming this government. We tried. We were there, UDP, with them. They kicked us out because they wanted to do corrupt things which we were not comfortable with. They kicked us out. They brought in the people who made Dame what he was. And they are doing.
I will have to have Barrow here, the president here, to talk about that too.
He won't come because he can't defend it. He can't defend it, and I don't think he has what it takes to sit and discuss for this kind of length of time. He doesn't have it. So all he's interested in is people telling whatever, and he runs with it. When you hear him speak, anytime they say he's going to speak, I say, oh my God, what is he going to say today? It's going to embarrass us again. But that's the president we have. You'll see Hussein that will sit with the press 1 hour, 2 hours, and discuss everything. You don't have Barrow come here and sit with you and discuss, ever. Because he wouldn't know what to say. But that in itself is not as bad as if he had character to control his government and rein in corruption. There are people less educated than him who have achieved results because they have character to rein in corruption and to rein in their government. But if you don't, they just take you for a ride and take you for granted and do whatever they like. And people like us come out and say it and call it out, but instead of listening to us, these guys are saying something that could be beneficial to me, they hate me, they are my opponents, don't listen to them. No, listen to us. We are saying things that will be beneficial to you as a president and to the country, and will leave you a legacy that you can be proud of tomorrow. So when you leave government, you can live here as an elder statesman with respect. That's what we want for everybody who hates this country and who hates our institutions, our ministries. We want to have that respect for them. But that's something you have to deserve. It doesn't get handed to you on a silver platter. You have to work for it and deserve it. So we cannot reform this government. It's past that now. The only thing is for the Gambian people to decide that we have to remove this government and replace it with a more functional government, with a more patriotic government, a government that cares for us and has compassion and determination to develop this country. And that will be UDP and a UDP-led coalition or alliance of parties. That is it. It's not going to happen otherwise.
All right. So
Yeah.
thank you very much. I mean, we can't discuss, like you said, everything about the budget. It's 500 pages plus. And even the so-called explanatory notes are not enough to be in one program. So I guess that I'll have to thank you for stopping by and for being part of this conversation. I mean, we would have this conversation more because the budget will be passed in December.
Yeah. Them.
So we still have time to come back and discuss more because I think this is a fundamental subject that we need to talk about a lot.
Absolutely.
And particularly for someone like me, corruption, public sector corruption. So I thank you so much for stopping by, Mr. Diba and Mr. Mani. And for the viewers, that's all we have this week on Verified. It's been a pleasure having Mr. Lamin Mani and Mr. Lamin Diba to talk about the budget. Do subscribe to our channel and share the content for more publicity. Thank you.